Global Community Facebook page. I'm Ginny Robertson, one of the hosts of the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, and I'm also the founder of the On Purpose Woman magazine and the founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. My guest today is Kim Wells Eley, who is a writing coach and publisher and also the CEO of KWE Publishing. We're going to be talking about how your words are as good as gold. So thanks for being here, Kim, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jenny. I'm excited to be here.
And Kim was our speaker at our Connections Over Coffee meeting this morning, so she's doing kind of a double duty with us today. So thanks so much. And thank you also for being a supporter, a writer. I'll talk about your articles a little bit later, but also an advertiser in the magazine. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And for those of you who haven't had the privilege of meeting this amazing woman, Kim, I met you a couple of years ago now, I guess, at the Richmond meeting, and I adore you. And I know I can't imagine anybody ever saying a negative thing about you, Kim Eley, because you're just so precious and you're funny and you're smart and all of that. So this is a love on Kim kind of moment. But let me tell you all about her so I know a little bit about her professionally. She is specializing in personal development books and thoughtful children's book, and that's the mission of her company, KWE Publishing. Kim says that the common thread of both of these is to help people see what's possible and shift to a more enjoyable, fulfilled life. She says that as a writing coach and publishing consultant, she gives clients 6 steps to make their books a reality. Kim is happily married to her BFF and has been for 20 years. She's a speaker, an author, a resident of Prince George, Virginia, a cat lover, a collector of orchids, and she gets all of her news from comedy channels. That kind of really keeps the stress level down, doesn't it, when you get all your news from comedy channels?
That's the perfect way to do it, Jenny. Even if the news is bad, you can laugh about it.
Exactly. And I will say, I don't see a cat or an orchid in your background there, but I don't think I've ever seen a cat on a Zoom meeting with you.
The cat is actually sleeping in my regular office chair right now. So my coworker is busy doing her napping. It's
pretty funny. So you can't sit in that chair when she's napping, right? Yeah. Kim, let's start. Oh, I didn't tell you she's also a master snorter. So I'm sure that will come out a little bit today. That's one of the things I love about you. But let's start at the beginning, or before the beginning, maybe. How on earth did you what was your background first? And then how did you get into book publishing?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I've always loved writing. I've always loved words. I got my bachelor's degree in English, and then I got my master's in writing and rhetoric. And I always jokingly say, so of course I went into IT. Doesn't want to do that.
Yes.
So that was
the job that's available, right?
If the job is available. Well, and also I love taking things apart. When I got my first computer, I grabbed my screwdriver and took the whole thing apart.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, so you were very like left-right brain compatible, it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I found it really fascinating. I found it like a puzzle. So started working as a computer technician, worked my way up to being a project manager. I loved managing people. I did not necessarily love what I was doing. It kind of was boring. I felt like I was sleepwalking through my life. So in 2014, I had been at the same IT company for 17 years. 17 years, and it's actually where I met my husband. He and I worked at the same.
That's why you were there, right?
So, you know, that had a little to do with it. But one day we had layoffs at work, and I was really fortunate. Neither my husband nor I were laid off, but it sure shook us up. And the thing that really kind of knocked me for a loop was that most of my team was laid off. And I loved working with these people. They were wonderful. We had great relationships. I was mentoring a couple of them. I really wanted to see them grow and thrive, and boom. And that was sort of, even though it was not fun, it was a sucky event. It was kind of the kick in the pants that I needed to go, what am I doing with my life? Why am I still in this IT company if you know, the paycheck was good, you know, but I was bored. So I started wondering, what do people do who really love what they do? And me being the writer and reader that I am, and Ginny, I know you're a big reader as well.
Yeah.
Turned to book, was like, let me find a book about this. Couldn't find the right book. I wanted a book about people who love what they do. So I decided to write that book. So
I love it. I love it.
Thank you. So in 2014, I started writing my book. I finished it in 2016. It's called Tickers: What Makes People Tick and Pursue a Career They Love. I took the style of a nonfiction, and I interviewed 10 individuals and one couple, all different walks of life. The thing they had in common is they absolutely love what they do. And so I asked them a series of questions. How did you get into it? How did you know to do what you love to do, even when they were naysayers? And I got a lot of great answers. One of the interesting things, Ginny, is something that I think applies since COVID has happened to us recently during 2020. A lot of the people with whom I spoke were impacted in 2008 when there was the big housing bubble. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people similarly have been affected by COVID, because a lot of us have said, snap, well, my world has changed. Do I still want to keep doing what I'm doing?
Yeah. What's important now?
Yeah. Exactly. So I self-published my book. I'm a control freak, and I was like, I'm not submitting it to other publishers. I'm doing it myself. And I learned a ton, did everything wrong, learned the hard way. And then me being me, you can tell I'm an extrovert. I would be at the post office getting coffee, and I was like, hey, I wrote a book. And people were like, I want to write a book. How'd you do it? And this was where my IT background came in handy. I was like, oh, it's easy. You just go into this self-publishing company and you do blah, 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 blah. And their eyes would glaze over, and they were like, And finally, one day a lady was like, I don't want to do all that, but I would pay you to do that.
Wow.
And I went, oh, okay. And thus a side hustle was born.
And then it became a full hustle, didn't it?
Exactly. November 2017, I stayed in IT. I did switch companies, but I stayed in IT until November 2017, when I went out on my own and took the big leap. And I'm so glad I did. I love my company.
Yes. And that's such a fabulous story, because there are so many, when I hear stories like that, I always think there are so many junctures that you could have made a different choice, and not ended up right here, right now, talking to me. Right. It might have been a fine choice. We don't know. But yet, when you think about all the things that have to be in place perfectly for us to be talking to each other right now, that always kind of boggles my mind. It's like, oh, yeah. Even if you had done that, but you hadn't connected with, because if you had still been in IT, you wouldn't have had any interest in the On Purpose on the global community, right?
Exactly.
And
I would have stayed in my zone. And but yeah, there were so many signs once I got into it. One of them was you and I had a connection, Mary Foley, or have a connection. Mm-hmm. And I talked to her. She was one of the people I spoke with when I was first looking into making the change. And the fact that we knew each other through, or y'all knew each other and then we knew each other, it was like all these signs. It's very cool.
And so that's an important message, I think, for people to really hear. It has nothing to do with book publishing per se, but it is pay attention.
Yes.
And notice what you're really wanting, and watch how, when you really get clear on that, like once that woman said to you, I'd pay you to do it, I bet all kinds of ideas and doors opened, and all of a sudden other people are saying, oh, I want that too, because before you were just kind of not open to it. So it wasn't, showing up in mass yet. I'm a firm believer in that.
Oh, that's huge.
Once we put it out there, we better be paying attention to all the opportunities that show up after. That is I just love that story. I think I'd heard a little bit about it and I'd forgotten it. So I'm so glad I asked you about it again. So I know that when you work with your clients, you want them to feel joyful and empowered to share their message. And I know you work with men and women, but I'm going to stick with women for the sake of this conversation. So why would someone not feel joyful and empowered when they start to share their message? Or why do you think that women are sometimes hesitant to even think they can, or that they have anything to say?
Oh, that's a great question. I think a lot of times as women, unfortunately, sometimes we aren't as confident. Um, I've had clients come to me and say, well, I want to write a book about this, but other people have written a book about this same topic. You know, who am I to put that out there? There's already books about this. I think sometimes too, and unfortunately, it's a cultural thing where we're sometimes chastised or given a hard time if we do speak up, quote unquote, too much.
Mhm.
I think because of that, often women will have a message, they will have something important that they want to share. They either lack the confidence, or they just need to know how important it is for them to share their unique voice. One thing I always tell clients, if they say, oh, I don't want to write about this topic, there's other books about it. I'm like, have you ever read, two books about the same topic, and one of them you loved and the other one you were either indifferent or didn't like? And they're like, yeah. And I say, what if your voice is the one that's going to reach that reader who needs to hear that message? And I firmly believe in that. I think each of us who have a story to tell, and I think everybody has a story to tell, but each of us who feel the desire to share our story have that story because we have an intended audience. We have somebody who needs to hear that message and to have that resonate with them.
Mhm. I love what our mutual friend Laura DeFranco will often say about everything has already been written, but not by you.
Yes,
And
that's
I
brilliant.
love that and what you said about that, because I think that does. I know that's entered my mind before. Well, who would, or somebody already wrote about that, or who would want to read that? Well, if I had
Right.
the idea, then apparently somebody wants to read it, because I wouldn't have had the idea. I want to read it, I guess. Do you find
Yeah.
that often we want to write books that well, you said that. You did say that you were looking for this book and nobody had written it yet, so you wrote it. So yeah, somebody was looking for that book and you filled that gap. So
Exactly. And
that's a good thing to, I think, to remember, is that you know it hasn't been written in our voice, it hasn't been written from our life experiences. And I think it's a hurdle sometimes for women to get past that idea that people would want to read it or they have something to say. And it's old stuff, old stuff that we all bring into whatever new game we're trying to play. We got to step up a little bit. But you help people with that. And I'm sure that with your love of words and your love of books, and you can really help them buy into them more, because you're like their cheerleader, I would imagine.
oh, definitely. I would say I'm part cheerleader, I'm part accountability partner.
Mm.
Um, I like to tell people I'm the world's nicest pain in the butt. I'm like, hey, how's it going? How's your writing? But you touched on something that I think is really important, which is uh, people or women especially have messages that we want to share. And I think it's important, this may sound obvious, but I think it's important that the topic is important to us. If it is something that engages you, if it is something that makes you light up, that's worth writing about. I often will see women go, oh, no, but I need to write about this because this is important. And I'm like, if it lights you up inside, if it's a message that's important to you, then that is important.
That's such a great point. I hadn't really thought of it that way before, but yeah, feeling like there's a gap that they want to fill, but yet it's not theirs to do if
Right.
they're not being lit up by it, right? So that's a great litmus test to see what should you be writing about.
Yeah.
Well, do people have to start with a book?
Oh,
Like,
heavens
what
no.
would you suggest to somebody who says, well, I've got stuff to say, but I don't know that I've got a book yet?
Oh, yeah. No, that's a great question. I would say if you're ready to start writing, there's so many great avenues to take. One of the easiest but also most impactful is to start a blog. You can start a blog on your website. You can also start, there's some awesome websites like Medium that offer the ability to share your insights. I also love, and I've worked with a couple of clients who have written for online magazines such as OPW, which I adore. And the nice thing about that, besides having regular practice at writing and writing, I would say short bursts versus a longer, more like a marathon with a book, is a couple of my clients actually created an anthology of their articles. So as they were writing each article or blog post, they were actually writing their book. Often they didn't know it until they had written a bunch of articles, and then it's like, hey, look, we can put this into a book.
Oh, that's such a great idea. That's so much less daunting, I would imagine, for some people than to think, because well, that's what they have you for, that to the organizing of it. What's step one? You have 6 steps that you share with them. It helps them get from the first word to the publishing, right?
Exactly.
You hold their hand through the whole process.
Exactly.
So let's talk about, women who don't think they have anything to say, but then they start to believe that they do. What have you seen happen with some women when they start to believe that their words matter?
Oh, I tell you what, Ginny, that has to be the coolest part of my job, is when I'm working with a writer, and writing truly does transform us. It's such a powerful medium for not only communicating to others, but to get in touch with ourselves as well. I've seen a number of writers who've had some huge breakthroughs and aha moments in their lives, and it was unexpected. Sometimes they've started writing and really felt, I'm not right. I thought I was going in one direction and I really should be going in another. And it's a beautiful shift to see happen. And I love holding space for writers as they work through that process. I've seen a number of them become more confident. I work with a lot of coaches and consultants and speakers, and I've seen them just grow even more confident in their message. It's pretty remarkable to see. It absolutely is so exciting to see somebody go, oh, I had never thought about this until I started writing my book.
Yeah. And that lights you up, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the topic that we had for this conversation is your words are as good as gold. I think we've been dancing around that a bit, but what do you mean? What do you mean by that specifically?
Absolutely. I truly mean your message is so important. I believe that the messages that we get, whether you call it God or source or creative muse, I call him Big Amigo. Wherever your inspiration comes from, I truly believe that we are conduits to bring out that message, to express who we authentically are, and to be able to engage others to understand the message that we have. The fundamental elements of language, I really got struck with it the other day. This is going to seem kind of random, but I was in a parking lot and I saw a bumper sticker, and it said, it was talking about warning, child in car may dart out, not respond when called to. And it was basically communicating that the person had a special needs child. And to me, it really hit home as far as the basics of communication are, we're just trying to understand each other. And especially in a world full of turmoil and full of lots of opinions and lots of things that go on, when you clarify your message, you understand better who you are and what you're portraying, and also you can engage other people. I know I've read books before and they've completely changed my mind about something that I thought I knew about or was certain about. You've probably had that experience too. So yeah, it's pretty dramatic.
And that allows people to then make their own unique impact, because I'm really big on this whole idea of what is mine to do, like not forcing the book because you think you should write that book, but letting the book. So what you're talking about, the book kind of emerges.
Yes,
right?
The book
With
really does.
With some midwifery.
Yes, it really does. I've been compared to a book doula. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
okay. Well, that makes
cool.
sense. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. But the value in your message, that's why your words are as good as gold. Part of that too is we have responsibility for what we say and what we put out there into the world. And that's not just books or articles, that's social media. Everything that you say is a reflection of you. So if you're wanting to, if you really think about who you are and what you stand for, your words should reflect that. I know, again, that seems very basic, but I think people don't think about that. Like, oh, I'm just gonna gossip a little. Well, is that really part of your brand?
I'm just
Yeah.
venting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
And then everybody piles on and vents with them, and it just, the energy just then goes, right? Yeah.
exactly.
I say day. I know I've vented before, but I'm much more conscious of all of that. Having a bigger online presence, because it is important.
Yes.
Plus, you want to be consistent, I think.
Yes, consistency is key. I think that's huge. I think once and people can get to know you through your words, which still baffles me. I mean, it's exciting, and yet it's also like, I'll have people who come up to me. I write a regular newsletter, and it's something I do to connect with my clients and also potential clients. And I'm always shocked when people go, oh, Kim, I read about blah, 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 and that was fantastic, or it really moved me. And I'm like, oh, I don't know you well, but we've made this connection, and I didn't even know we were connecting. It's powerful.
And you mentioned your newsletter. Let me just throw it out there to our listeners that it is an excellent newsletter. You give great information every time. And I'm sorry I haven't said that to you before, but great information, just free tips. So go on. I guess they can sign up on your website, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll give you Kim's web. We'll go ahead and give it to us now. We'll do it again at the end.
Oh, sure. It's KWEPUB.com, and it's P like Paul. And I think one day I'm going to have to own a pub or a bar called KWE, because people have asked me, oh, is that a bar? I'm like, well, it's short for publishing.
I guess they don't know you because I didn't go there immediately, but yeah, I guess that would be that logical question, wouldn't it?
Right. It makes sense.
In your future.
There we go.
You want to do at some point, right? Yeah.
My bookstore bar.
Yes. Oh, well, that sounds like a fun thing, doesn't it?
Yes.
Now, Kim, if let's say a woman specifically feels strongly they have a book in them, because as soon as people hear what you do, don't they usually say, if they haven't already written a book, oh, I feel like I have a book in me, or people tell me I should write a book, but and then there's a but after that, or, some disclaimer about it. But if they feel strongly that they've got something to say, they may not even quite know what kind of something. What are some next steps they can take to kind of flow into that?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. I think one thing I really love for writers to do is to get clear. When I say clear, one of the things I like to suggest is doing a brain dump. Basically, if you're thinking about writing a book and you want to write it about a specific topic, but you're not quite sure which direction to go in, take out a piece of paper, or if you prefer computer, pull up a blank document, and then just start writing about all the ideas that you have. And sometimes you have to do a pre-writing brain dump, because a lot of times, we're all guilty of this. We're super busy. We've got all the things floating in our heads, like Jane's birthday is next week. Snap, I got to get a card, or, oh, I got to order the groceries. So sometimes you have to clear that stuff out, do a brain dump of your normal stuff, then sit down and write down all the ideas. And then I always like to say, take a break from it, come back to your list of ideas and circle the ones that really resonate with you. And that's so important because, again, as we talked about, if you're engaged in the subject lights you up, it's also going to light up your reader.
Yeah.
Once you've really gotten clear on those ideas, figure out, I like to do what I call, one of my awesome clients calls it the porcupine chart, You draw the circles around the ideas that resonate, and then draw lines off from it, and write down, ideas that accumulate on ideas. Like, for instance, if we were to write a book about beekeeping, one of them might be, well, I live in a city, how can I own a beehive? And so your idea might be urban beehives. And then the topics of that are, what are the regulations? And how do I get started? And how do I prevent stings? Just all the things that you start accumulating. And then you get really excited about certain ones, like, I would love to find out, can my city have bees? Am I allowed to have bees in my backyard? Things like that get you excited.
And it also, I guess, quiets the mind and gets some more important stuff down on paper, so you're not feeling so overwhelmed by all the massive ideas. Because you probably also are attracting a lot of highly creative people who have great imaginations and have lots of stuff buzzing around in there. You've got to somehow get that into a little funnel so that it only a few things trickle down at one time, right?
Most definitely. And that does happen. I love working with creative people, but it's hard because our attention span when we're creative is like, pew, the shiny thing. Wow. But to get super clear, and whenever I work with clients, we always create what I call the strategic plan. And that is, who is your intended audience or reader? What is your message? And then what is your intention? And the message and intention are similar, but they're a little bit different. The message could be how awesome it is to keep bees. Your intention could change, though. Your intention could be to encourage more people to, own beehives, or your intention could be to, portray the reason why we need more bees because of colony collapse. You get to define. And the more defined you get, it's actually more liberating, because then you don't have this huge number of ideas pulling at your brain.
Yeah. And I think it was in our meeting this morning, Lillian mentioned her first book that she was writing and how somebody kind of shot it down and she said she realized that she was trying to cover every single thing that I guess that had happened, but not with any kind of real clarity that would have had somebody hone in on it. And I think that's a fear we often have, not just in writing a book, but in business in general, that we want to be all things to all people. Exactly. So figuring out who you're writing for is really important.
Oh, that's huge. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's one thing that a lot of beginning writers will say. I'll say, well, who are you writing for? And they go, I want my book to appeal to everyone. And well, yeah, of course, you want people to really love your book, but I think the more specific you get, the more you can capture your, I'm going to call them raving fans, or the people who are your people. And interestingly enough, I find sometimes the more specific you get about something, the more generally it appeals to people. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Famous book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And yeah, it's about motorcycles, but it's about a lot more, but it's very specific in its topic. And yet somehow that specificity makes it more general, so it appeals to people.
Yeah, more broad. Yeah, that was gosh, I should revisit that book one day. It's like the third time that book title has come up in my consciousness in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, I don't think it's on my bookshelf. It was in college, but I don't know where it is now. But yeah, I didn't know that about that book, but that is really great, because it is pretty specific, and those two things wouldn't seem to go together. Exactly. In your like normal everyday mind, but then you read the book, why they go together. So.
Great. Yes.
So I had a question that popped in a minute ago. Let's see, what was it? It was about, it wasn't really a question. It was just adding to the idea of your tip around doing the brain dump, getting all of your ideas. That's a tip that would work for any project. That's a tip that would work for cleaning your house. That's a tip that would work for adding to your business instead of getting caught up with the shiny object thing. Because once you get it on paper and then you start to circle those things that really resonate. I mean, I have a lot of ideas. I've been toying with something for a couple of weeks. I keep putting on my list, make a decision. And it's something I've done before, and it felt like the right time to do it again. And I thought, and yesterday I went, nope, don't want to. That's all I had to do was finally get to, nope, don't want to. I'm not feeling it. It's going to be more work than I feel like putting in, and I'm not feeling it.
That
Isn't that an
huge.
amazing place to be in our lives? I mean, I'm so grateful that I have those options, that I can do that. But
Right,
it's a great tip,
absolutely.
Kim, that I think can be so universally used. So
Oh,
thank you
good.
for
I'm
that.
so
Yeah.
glad. I think all of us walk around with, I read an article once that described it as the mental load.
Mm,
And the article I read was specifically about parents. And it was saying, no offense, guys, but a lot of times the mother of a child has all the information about, well, Johnny doesn't like, strawberries, or, all the different things about the child. They're carrying the mental load. And so often the father will say, oh, does Johnny like strawberries? But I think all of us carry that mental load. We're all carrying these things with us. And Ginny, I love the way you described that. Once you finally took that thing out of your brain and set it down and went, oh, no, not for me.
yeah. Yeah. And there's so much freedom in that.
Yeah, really
I
is.
was signed up for a free something a number of years ago, and it was on some kind of organizing, and it was mostly around paper and things like that. And it was a couple, and they were excellent. But one of the things they had us do was to do a brain dump of every single thing we could think of in our entire lives that was undone.
Whoa,
Yes.
that's huge.
It is huge, and it feels overwhelming at first, because I was like, obviously I was putting them into categories, but then it was so freeing because I actually could look at it and go, well, how many of these things do I really care about?
Oh, wow. I
So it's the
love
same thing you're
that.
talking about. But it's that whole idea of just getting it out of here, because we're carrying around way too much of a mental load. I've never heard it called that, but I like that a lot. So you
Yeah,
can help people actually lighten their mental load when they're deciding on how they're going to approach their book or what they're going to write on. Yeah. At
exactly.
our meeting this morning, you were the speaker, and you talked about, you didn't use this word once, I don't think, but for me, it was all about how we can get stuck in our writing because of perfectionism.
Yes.
I would love you to say a few words about, and you can use your title of your talk if you like, and just throw it out there. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Absolutely. So our talk this morning was create it shitty, and I'm laughing because I always stop myself from cursing because I'm afraid I'll drop an f bomb in front of a friend's child or something, and Auntie Kim said this. But yeah, write it shitty, and so it was inspired by Anne Lamott, who wrote this wonderful book Bird by Bird, and she has a chapter in there that is shitty first drafts. And because perfectionism, I'm going to paraphrase, I've heard perfectionism is fear wearing fancier clothes. And
Elizabeth Gilbert, I think, said it was,
yeah.
yes, fear in high heels. I mean, something like that. I actually created a poster from that. Yep.
Oh yes, I
Yeah.
love her book, Big Magic. It's
Mm.
huge, and it's true. We are afraid to create a shitty first draft. We're afraid to fail. We're afraid because our perfectionist nature, there's part of us that wants to be recognized as, oh my gosh, you're so good at this. This is fantastic. And so we get afraid to do anything that we can't do perfectly. I've seen it happen a number of times, and I've actually coached several clients who get stuck on the perfectionism ledge, and it's like, I can't put that out there. And truly, perfect is the enemy of the good. If you have an amazing message and it's been put there, it's been downloaded for you to share, don't put stumbling blocks out there. Write it down. Maybe it is a terrible first draft, but you have the opportunity to edit it and to polish it, but put it out there. The option of not doing it is a terrible option. And how many of us have had great ideas and didn't do a brain dump, and we're like, well, I'll just come back to that later, and then it goes away. Elizabeth Gilbert talks about that with Big Magic. She says the muse comes and sometimes the idea goes to someone else if we don't act on it. That's
Mhm.
scary.
It does. And then we have regrets. And I think we should do whatever we can do to not have regrets in our life. What's that saying? I'd rather apologize for what I did than have regrets for not doing it, or something like that.
Yes.
So that fear of not being good enough, or not having all the perfect tools. And I think well, maybe you can answer this. That can often happen, I think, because we're not really clear who we're writing for either. And so we've got this English teacher or this literary critic or some professor of something that we think is going to be reading our book and with a red pen.
Exactly. No, it's so true. I did a training one time and I talked about free your inner English teacher, because we carry their voice in our heads, and sometimes you can pen up your creativity by being like to your own self. Oh, no, you misspelled that, go back. And it's like, no, concentrate on getting the ideas out first. And then once you do that, you can always, with writing, go back and make updates. You can always go back and revise it. And I think the good thing to note also is it's important to revise it. I often, that was part of the talk this morning too, was a lot of times we envision our favorite writers just immediately, the ideas flow out of their head in perfect English, and no, it doesn't happen that way. Everybody has to edit. It's just the nature of the beast. But it's so important to shake off the perfectionism, go, you know what? Okay, it's a shitty first draft. I'm just going to go back and revise it and go from there.
Mm-hmm. It's such great advice. And we talked in the meeting also about how that doesn't just apply to writing books. I know that's why we're here to talk about today, but it applies to, you brought up, you asked somebody a question about the first time they did a speech on stage or something, or just really anything that whole, I tell people, you said you're a control freak. Well, I'm a recovering control freak and a recovering perfectionist. And I was an English major for the first half of my education. I was going to be an English teacher as well.
Were you?
Yeah. And then I switched to corporate finance. Yeah.
Oh, wow. There's a shift.
Only because people were telling me that's what I should do. I had no mind of my own back then. But that's for another day and another story. So, yeah, did we finish that thought? I think we did.
I think we did. Yeah, absolutely. It was making me think about, and some other thought came up, which is, once you get over the fear and allow yourself to express yourself, it is freeing. I think a lot of times it's the fear that keeps us from doing something. And then once we're like, oh, let's get over ourselves. Oh, and part of it too is it makes us authentic. Nobody likes somebody who's just perfect all the time. I mean, you talked about it during our meeting this morning, that when we first got on social media, everybody looked like the perfect, holiday card. And it's like, that's not life. There's ups and downs, and there's stuff that goes right. And some days you sit down to write and it's flowing. And some days you sit down and you're like, I can't think of an idea to save my life. And that's okay.
The more honest we are about that, especially as women with other women, the better everybody can feel about themselves, and not do all that comparison. I heard a quote one time, and I don't know who said it, but said we walk around comparing our insides to other people's outsides. And so we see their outside and we think, oh, I don't measure up because we're thinking, we think they don't feel like we feel, and that was just such an eye opener for me, because, a lot of us had spent a lot of time in our lives just putting on that face.
Yes,
for some good reasons, we thought, but but I think as women mature, especially, and start to realize that not everything is an issue, not everything matters,
right.
We can start to let that down even more. We can be a great example to other young women coming along, that they don't have to do it that way.
Oh, definitely.
But you're a young woman too, so you're that next generation down from me. I guess I could be your big sister. I'm not sure if I could be your mother.
Exactly.
Maybe your mom. I don't know.
No, big sister.
So let's talk for just a minute about this whole idea of self-publishing, because it used to be when somebody wanted to write a book, they couldn't do it unless they had got a book deal, and those were few and far between. Or everybody thought they were going to get like an advance, and they were going to be able to live on their advance and write their book for a year or two. That did not happen to people unless they were already I don't know how people get that first book. But, Wayne Dyer self-published his first book.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, way back in the 80s, early 80s, late 70s. And then he loaded up the books in the trunk of his car and drove around selling them out of the trunk of his car.
I love it.
Attention of some radio station, and then they did an interview, and then one thing led to another. It was Your Erroneous Sons was his first book, and then a publisher picked him up after that. So that's one of those stories. But
Right.
they were also very rare. But with self-publishing, I mean, even the last couple of years, it's gotten easier, hasn't it?
It's gotten a lot easier. And one of the reasons for that is print on demand, also called POD. And print on demand allows you the freedom of not having to order a minimum number of books. Once upon a time, if you weren't picked up by a traditional publisher and you went to a printer and you said, oh, I want to self-publish my own book, they would be like, okay, great. But in order for it to be profitable for us, you have to, I'm going to make this up, print 50,000 copies and buy them, which is prohibitively expensive. And then you end up with a garage full of books. With print on demand, you can publish your book, have it available on, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, lots of other e-retailers, and you never have to purchase a book at all if you don't want to. You can print just one copy of your book and have pay for it as an author copy if you want to. So it democratizes the ability to publish. It allows the freedom of, say, if you are an entrepreneur and you want to write your book as a way to establish your credibility or have yourself seen as an expert, you get to determine, oh, I have a conference coming up in September, so I'd really like to publish in August and have my books available. With traditional publishers, you generally don't have that freedom. You have to be accepted by them, and then you're pretty much on their terms. The nice thing is traditional publishing has opened up a little bit more so that they do allow you to own the rights to your book more than they used to, which is nice. But I love the control of self-publishing. You get to choose the topic, and you can publish in a very niche, a very small market, and to your raving fans. And, it may not appeal to a broad enough audience for a traditional publisher, but you may get some just super excited people who just resonate with your message, and boom, you connect.
Wow. And that would be part of when you work with a client, you would take them through that entire process as well, right? Because they want to be figuring that stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. So we go through the whole process of, how do you get the word out there? And reaching your audience. You can't reach your readers unless they know you're out there. So that's an important part.
And Kim, you've written a series of what I think are really powerful, inspiring, and educational articles for On Purpose Woman magazine about getting your book written, getting it published, and everything in between. So I want to tell our watchers, our listeners, to go to onpurposewomanmagazine.com, or you can go to opwgc.com and click on the magazine and look at the archives there. You can go back. I think you did 6 of them, didn't you?
I think so, yes.
More than that, but they were all excellent. They're standalone. You don't have to do them in order. I don't think they're not like this is step 1, step 2, but really, really good practical information. And you're excellent. And you write in a very conversational way. So I think you kind of, I don't want to say you dumb it down, but you make it accessible to people who know nothing about what you're talking about. And if people know something about it, then they understand it even better, I think. So thank you for that offering to the magazine.
Yeah.
How can people find out more about you?
Oh, absolutely. You could go to my website. It's kwepub.com. I'm also on Instagram at KWEPUB, and LinkedIn, and Facebook. And probably the best way to reach out to me is via my website. I do offer complimentary 30-minute consultations, because if you want to start a book but you don't know where to start, it can be intimidating. So I like to make it easy for people. We just have a chat, and as you can tell, I have a lot of fun when I have my consultation.
And before we wrap up, is there any other words of wisdom you'd like to impart that we haven't touched on? I mean, I know there's a ton, but in the time that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to say today is the day. So many people go, oh, I've always wanted to write my book. Today is the day. If you're looking for a sign, this is the sign. Start your book. It's so important to do the things while you are excited and lit up and inspired to do it. Just get started.
And if you're not inspired enough yet to do it for yourself, think about the potential reader and what they may need to learn from you or
Yeah.
hear from you. So if you want to be, don't be selfish and hold that stuff in. Get it out there into the world. Make your unique
Yes.
difference on the planet. So thank you, Kim. This was so great. It's just, I just adore you anyway, but I knew we would have a really good time today. So thank you for all of your tips, your great words of wisdom, and just your bringing your little bright light to us today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. You're welcome. And I want to thank all of you for joining us for the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show live in the On Purpose Woman magazine and Global Community Facebook page. We have 4 interviews next week. I'm going to tell you about one of them. On Monday, Catherine Yarborough, who is the other host of the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, will interview Bessie Estenoktok. I think that's how you say her name. And they're going to be talking about how to say goodbye to chaos and stress. So who would not want some of that? And I'll depend on Catherine to tell you about the next one, then I'll be on and tell you about the next one. But if you want to know about all of the interviews, you can go to the On Purpose Woman magazine and you can just look in the table of contents. It'll say Real Woman, Real Purpose talk show. Click on the content. It'll take you right to the 4-page spread. We have 21 interviews scheduled for July and August. So, and we've got over 60 on our YouTube channel, which I hadn't mentioned yet. So if you love this interview, you want to share it with your friends or family, you can share it from the On Purpose Woman magazine page, or you can also go over to the YouTube channel. It will be up there within the next 48 hours. And that is the On Purpose Woman Global Community. That's the name of the channel on YouTube. And while you're there, check out some of the other topics and see what might resonate with you. So thank you again for watching the Real Woman, Real Purpose talk show. I'm Ginny Robertson, signing off now with my guest, Kim Eley. Have a great weekend, everyone.